What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility, what the data points are saying, at least going into next week, and where things might be going. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So based on Friday, it did go down 2.67%. So going into next week, the technicals are not necessarily the best because it did attempt several times to transition from the lower to the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, and unfortunately it failed many times. So I think the technicals are starting to consolidate. It will most likely try again, hopefully fairly soon. But until then, I feel like it's going to be breaking down a little bit. And looking on some of the fib levels, with it being at $5.84, it is currently trading between this S2 and this S1. So it hasn't really confirmed that it's going to be trading in that range, because with 588, a very strong, I guess, resistance and support, it's going to be flip-flopping. So you really want to watch that being a kind of pivot point going into next week. But technically, the next very strong support that we do know is $5.49, which is kind of crazy that it would be a 52-week and all-time low for Lucid. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. As far as looking at some of these indicators, shows number of retail investors have been getting out. Stochastic is currently at 29, but there is a bearish sentiment, so red line above the black. So like I said, just the technicals aren't necessarily looking the best. But if you are looking at options, for instance, based on Friday, there was around 28,000 options that were kind of bearish, 56,000 bullish. So I think behind the scenes, clearly people are anticipating for it to trend up a little bit. But if you are looking as far as premium wise, it's just not there. So 1.8 million for puts and 1.22 million for calls. So when it comes down to the options activity, it's kind of mixed, like I mentioned, but I would like to see it a little bit more optimistic, because I think there is some pretty big things coming out, but I'm going to touch on that in a second. This is all the calls. So if you are optimistic, it does show that it's going to be between the 6 to 650 range by the end of this week. So again, if you are going to be doing options, weekly options, as I always have been kind of saying over the last couple of weekends, what I'm doing, I definitely feel that that's more of the orientations. And when it comes down to the options, the weekly options that I usually pick, I like to factor in multiple different things, one of which is stuff that might be coming out on a broader scale. And Monday and Tuesday might be generally kind of quiet, not really anything to talk on. But Wednesday, there is a CPI, so that one's going to be a very hot topic. And then also on Thursday, there's going to be initial jobless claims, there's going to be PPI, and also retail sales. So the trifecta. So Wednesday and Thursday are going to be crazy, and it could go in either direction, right? Based on so far, looking at a CPI right now, it is anticipated to kind of stay in line with the forecast a little bit. Looks like the year over year is anticipated to go down, up a little bit, so 3.6 versus the 3.2 previously. But over and above that, as far as companies issuing their earnings that could affect Lucid and or the broader market, there's not really anything. Of course, there's Oracle and Adobe, but technically, I don't feel like that'll really influence the stock market at all. So once again, just wanted to bring that up. As far as Lucid specific stuff that I do feel that might be coming out this week, if not very, very soon, it's one of two things. One of which is right here. So they do signal about the Sapphire. So they say in September, they're going to be commencing production of the Sapphire. And this is all from the Q2 transcripts. So what they did physically say, they've already started pre-production, but I think in general, the production, commencement of production is going to be huge. And most likely they're going to follow that production starting and ramping up with some PR. So I think that's definitely going to be a fairly good thing, even though Sapphire, I don't know exactly how many are going to be tentatively sold. It'd be very interesting to see, but still beside the point, I think this is going to be their Halo car and all the other fun jazz. And yeah, Sapphire definitely has a lot of reviews already on it, because technically they already started some pre-production. They did some media viewings. So I think the Sapphire is going to be a fairly good catalyst that could really propel it higher. So again, when I talk on options, I'm going to factor this in as well. And then technically there is something else that might be coming out fairly soon, and it is right here. So now also for September, they will be doing a opening ceremony for the manufacturing facility in Saudi Arabia, because we already do know, I think the forecast was supposed to be September the 1st. Clearly with it being today the 10th, maybe they're running a little bit behind essentially, but still, I think that's going to be a fairly good thing because it's going to result in, I think, estimated 5,000 vehicles just for this year alone, which, as I've said in the past, I think this facility I'm more excited about because this one can ship on a global scale very easily, and it'd be obviously reduced cost associated to that as well. So it'll be able to have that connection to Europe, have it to like everywhere throughout the world. So I think this one is what Lucid should really be focusing on. And yeah, so let me know your thoughts on that. So that might be coming out fairly soon, whether it be this week or next week. I think you can always plan accordingly with your options. And just, yeah. So when it comes down to shorts, I'll give you an overview of what shorts are doing, at least going into next week. So I will pull up good old Lucid right here. So Lucid, when it comes down to shorts, right now short score is currently 75, utilization is 90.05%. And as far as right now, shorts did increase 253,000 shares, but I've already covered this in a previous video. 24.34% of the free float is being shorted. 201.27 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow is 1.51%. So I feel like shorts might potentially increase a little bit with the volatility as a result of Wednesday and Thursday, but when it comes down to it, 24.34% of the free float is just extremely high. So I feel like with these two catalysts coming out, so with the Saudi Arabia facility and also the Sapphire, I do feel that might counteract the Wednesday, Thursday volatility. And that's assuming the Wednesday and Thursday data coming out might be negative. If it is positive, then you could see a very big boost up in the stock price for Lucid. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But over and above that, though, kind of not really specific to next week, I just wanted to bring this up because I did find this interesting. So it looks like based on Investor Trip, an article, it did project these kind of prices for all the way up to 2050. Kind of 2050 might be a little bit far-fetched because there's a lot of variables. Even technically, it's hard to predict up to 2025, let alone 2050. But they do have $5,913 as far as the price point for 2050. But I think realistically, look at the next couple of years and that's basically it. But 2023, $17. Kind of bold, but 2024 $30, 2025 $53. So I kind of found this interesting. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, and what is your price prediction, for instance, for the end of 2025. But with all of that fun stuff said, as far as where I see things going in some options activity, like I mentioned, I think the beginning part, so the Monday, Tuesday, that might actually cause a little bit more of a further dip down, and then of course maybe some positive data from Wednesday, Thursday, and or some of those data, whether it be Saudi Arabia, Sapphire news, then I feel like that might counteract it. But I do feel that it might actually touch close to that $5.50 this upcoming week. Of course, I hope I am completely wrong about that and it just goes to $8 this week. I'd be very happy about being wrong about that. But I do feel, based on the data points, a lot of the negative sentiment that's out there right now, I feel like it might actually touch that 550. So when it comes down to options and how to essentially play that, if it does, obviously the lower it does get, that is the best opportunity to actually sell puts. And I do feel that the best strike prices to kind of sell puts would be that $5 mark. And even if you do extend it out 1 week, that might be still very advantageous just to collect some additional premium. So even if you push it to September the 22nd versus the 15th for the expiry date. But as far as being optimistic, so like I mentioned, I always like to sell puts and sell covered calls just to collect some premiums. So my goal is never to have them exercised. It's always just to collect the premiums. So of course, just keep that in mind. But when it comes down to selling a covered call, you never really want to sell it when it is about to go up. Typically on a downtrend, that's when you can easily sell some covered calls and things like that. So I do feel that based on this Friday, for the 15th being the expiry date, maybe around the $6 range might be ideal. So to collect the most bang for your buck as far as premiums, but you have to be very cautious because like I mentioned, with the Sapphire news and obviously even the opening ceremony for Saudi Arabia will be probably the bigger aspect of the two. But once this does get announced, I feel like the stock price will go up. So as far as doing a covered call this week, I'd be very cautious, maybe $6, but it might be even better just to push it out a couple of weeks to September the 29th and maybe choose a 750 or 8 potentially. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to play it. I always highly recommend you guys researching options because it can be very, very beneficial. But at the same time, clearly, as I mentioned with you, it can also be very risky because technically, yeah, if you sell a covered call, if you're assuming it's going to go up and then it skyrockets, you kind of lose out. So you have to always do your own due diligence because as well, I am not a financial advisor. So with all that said, let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. Where do you see things going as far as this week? Do you think that this week they are going to have that opening ceremony or even just start or commence production of the Sapphire? What's your kind of take on all of that in the comments below? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo, completely free to sign up for, but if you do throw $100 at the account, you get 5 free stocks. Each stock could be valued at $2,000. So just sign up for this account. It's complete no-brainer. And yeah, link is in the description below and also the comments. With that said, I appreciate you all watching.